Radio, a constantly changing art form. London.
The 2-hour ultimatum had been delivered to Germany.
Rock and roll. Prairie home companion.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
From that first broadcast, a medium that has been pruned, honed, trimmed, winnowed, chiseled, bonsai'd, and deposited here today, ready to be moistened with the watering can of evolutionary dew. This is the Dennis Miller Show.
Hey folks, ABC, always be closing if you want the knife set. Welcome to the Dennis Miller Show. I am the aforementioned Mr. Miller. I had requested Christian recently that I want to be, by a mile, the third smartest person on my radio show sometime in the near future for an hour. And I didn't know he'd step up this quickly. Later in the hour, I have Mark Stein on, and joining us right now. And I dig this dame. She's a fighter. She's feisty. And I couldn't agree more with today's column. Take your olive branch and shove it, Democrats. She is the author of Culture of Corruption, Obama and His Team of Tax Cheats, Crooks, and Cronies, Michelle Malkin. Michelle, how are you?
Good. How are you, Dennis?
Well, you know what? I feel like I'm happy for the country, but I live in California, so I feel like, you know, that watertight door that comes down when they hit the iceberg? I got stuck on the other side of it, so... but I'm happy for the rest of the country. What happened in Colorado? That was still up in what? I don't know what the final resolution of that was.
Yeah. I'm feeling a little bit like you. We're on the same side of the door in some ways. The race for the Senate has been called by the Democrat endorsing Denver Post for the Democrat. Mm-hmm. But just a few thousand votes separate the two candidates. It's possible a recount could be triggered. There are thousands of provisional ballots that haven't been tallied up yet, but we expected it to be close. The good news is that the state legislature here went rather red. The bad news is that Colorado was one of 3 states that had the Obamacare mandate on the ballot. We had an initiative to repeal that. And out of the 3 healthcare ballot measures, ours was the only one that went down. Arizona and Oklahoma understood that they ought to seize the opportunity and seize the day, and they repealed their mandates there. But I'm trying to look at the big picture.
Yeah, good night overall. I'll tell you what, Michelle, in a weird way, and we're talking to Michelle Malkin, and she'll be here for 2 segments. If you want to call, queue up at 866-509-RANT, 866-509-7268. I can say this, I think it was a good night for the country. I can also say that I actually think Republicans, in an odd way, are one step closer to extinction if they don't play ball than the Democrats. I think the Democrats probably have one more play left in them. I think they can ring the chamois again. But Republicans, over the next 2 years, they better do a certain amount of things that really, they're risking a nuclear Whig-like winter, aren't they?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right on that. They are on notice, and that is the singular silver lining out of some of the Tea Party losses, which the Republican establishment in D.C. is going to gloat over. But I think that's a rather short-sighted response and reaction. I know that there are a lot of my colleagues, Karl Rove at the top of the list, who spent the entire midterm campaign season trashing Christine O'Donnell, but she spared us Mike Castle and his cap and tax proclivities, and every radical green Republican like him now is on notice, and some of them did win election. And leading that pack, of course, was Mark Kirk in Illinois, and I think that's a muted celebration, because although he defeated Obama's shady banking buddy, Alexei Janulius, the fact is that grassroots conservatives have a lot to worry about when this guy didn't just merely feel like he was arm-twisted into supporting cap and tax, but led the way.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, as the president went to the mattresses these last 2 weeks and went out and pitched his cause, I must say this. He solidified in my head my take on him. I don't believe he's as fine a man as he was pitched to me. Now, listen, I didn't vote for him, and I certainly can concede that intellectually he probably was good in school and that. But there's a nasty side there, and it's been too many times now I've heard this thing, and the coup de grace for me was him on the Hispanic station saying the enemies were. Now, he's walking that back, but I believe more, I'm the Rorschach guy. I want to see what happens in the blink, and in the blink, he's got a nasty side to him, doesn't he?
He sure does, and that was one of the leitmotifs of culture of corruption, that underneath the hope and change exterior, you basically did have a Chicago thug who brought that hope and change with a pair of brass knuckles, and he's been bloodying the heads not just of Republicans in Washington, but of the entire grassroots conservative movement through the midterm campaign season and for the last 2 years. And that's really why I thought it was important in this post-election glow to write the column that I did, and to make sure that these Republicans that we are sending to Washington now understand that their mandate is not a mandate to roll over, to reconcile, and to take that olive branch, but to be very wary, skeptical, and on guard, and to make sure that they know that our message is that they shouldn't surrender, they shouldn't compromise, and they shouldn't capitulate.
And to all the people listening out there, and I know we get people from both sides of the aisle here, when you hear me say nasty piece of work and Michelle thugs and bloodying, and you think, God, can't we ramp this discourse down? I want you to take a beat and think to yourself, what are they reacting to? I'm reacting to the President of the United States on a public radio outlet saying if the Hispanic community is not going to get out, and get this quote, because I'm a comedian, Michelle is a writer. At some point, this is the President of the United States in fractious time saying, punish your enemies. That is amazing. I mean, they always say, why is she saying bloody and stuff like that? And you want to go, for God's sakes, he's the president. How can he say that now? It's repulsive to me.
Yes, and when has he ever publicly stated that we should punish our jihadi enemies?
Never.
That's language
Never
used for our overseas enemies. But domestically, he's used that kind of language time again and again. It was a gratuitous slap, a Bihar slap, you might say, to quote you. And he did try to half-heartedly walk it back. But then again, this is a man who essentially accused his domestic enemies, us, of being un-American for opposing the Obamacare mandate, for criticizing the stimulus boondoggle. This is someone who engaged in the worst kind of racial demagoguery over the last couple of months, telling his minority audiences that we wanted blacks and women and Hispanics to stay home. Yeah. And that we didn't, and this is from that Univision radio program as well, he said, quote, those aren't the kind of folks who represent our core American values. Us and them demagoguery from day one, from a man who stood so transcendently as a unifier, getting rid of all the hyphens. Mm-hmm. There's no more black America, brown America. There's just one America, and he's been cleaving it and dividing it ever since. And now he's going to stand up before us later this afternoon in just an hour or so and talk about unity. Meh.
And I just want to go on record as saying, to cover myself here, and I know his minions will drop a race dime on you in a nanosecond. Just let me say right up front here, I only disagree with his white half. Do you hear me? I only disagree with the president's white half. There, we're covered.
Yes.
All right, we'll be back with Michelle Malkin right after this on The Dennis Miller Show.